Hey guys, just checking to see if anybody's going to join here. All right. No one's on yet, so let me just give it a few minutes while we are waiting for some folks to join. Let me say hey and invite you to go get your crafting juice. I have mine. Tonight I'm going light. I'm drinking a Vino Verde, which is kind of a light wine. It's Monday, can't go too heavy. It's snowing here in North Carolina, believe it or not. I'm in Cary, which is outside of Raleigh. If you're not familiar with North Carolina, Raleigh's in the middle of the state. We should not be getting snow, but we are. Actually, a lot more than I thought. It's been snowing probably for the past 4 or 5 hours. So, awesome. But anyway, so what I wanted to show you guys today, and I'm sorry, is I got the new Stampin' Up Stamparatus. Very excited about this. It's very exciting that Stampin' Up has come up with their own stamping positioning tool. Now, I've had the Misti. If you're not familiar with the Misti, I'll show you that when we go over to the craft table. But that is, Misti stands for the most incredible stamping tool invented. I've had my Misti for several years now, and it completely changed my stamping life. It's a fantastic tool, but being that I'm a Stampin' Up girl and a Stampin' Up demonstrator, I was really hoping that Stampin' Up would get on the stamping positioning tool bandwagon and create their own, and they have, and it's a fantastic tool. Now, I really wanted to kind of show you the Stamparatus, but then also compare it to the Misti, because a lot of people may already have a stamping tool, and you may be thinking, why do I need another one? So I wanted to kind of show you what the Stamparatus does, the cool things you can do with it that the Misti can't do, and then also show you maybe some tricks and just really put it side by side against the Misti. So before I move over to the craft table and kind of start going through the Misti, I just want to say sorry that I've been kind of off social media lately. I just started back posting on Instagram, just posted a new blog post today. I've just kind of been out of the social media thing for a while. Been dealing with some personal things that has kept me from being able to create my craft room, but I'm back now. And another exciting thing other than the Stamparatus is I have launched a new website. So about, I guess it's been a couple weeks now, I had a really awesome web services come in, redo my website. They moved me from Blogger to WordPress, which has been really dramatic to the changes to my website, and I absolutely love it. So I do believe that's going to go live tomorrow, so you'll see the new format hopefully tomorrow. Really like the format of my new website, and I think it's a lot easier to navigate and find things. So that's www.thestampcycle.com, and like I said, the new website will be launched hopefully tomorrow. Okay, so let's move over to the stamp table and let me start showing you this fun, exciting Stamparatus tool. Okay, so here it is. Can you get, let me see if that's working. Nothing that's working. Maybe my phone is locked. Let me try this again. That's not working. Why is this not working? All right, I'm having, hold on just a minute while I figure this out. I think I might have it figured out here. Hopefully. Ah, there we go. Okay. So my phone kind of went on sleep mode and I lost it in my software. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit so you guys, no, maybe not that much, so you guys can see a close-up of it. Okay, so here it is. This is the Stamparatus, and this is the little brochure that comes with it. It gives you some tips and tricks inside here, so it is good to take a minute to review that when you get your Stamparatus so that you kind of understand how it works. But here is what it looks like. It comes actually with the, why is this not coming out? It does come with this already out, and I'm having some serious problems getting this out. Maybe I'm not doing something right, but anywho. So it does come with 2 doors, this door and this door, and they do fit in like this. So I think the key is to make sure you're completely straight. There you go. So there's your first tip. When you're putting your door in and taking it out, you want to make sure that you're going straight down. Any tilt will not allow you to pull it out. So, you know, if you're tilting like this, it's not going to come out. Tilting like this, it's not going to come out. It needs to be perpendicular. So it comes like this with 2 doors. You get 2 doors. It comes with this mat, which is a thin mat. And this is, you use this when you're stamping with photopolymer stamps. And when you are using your cling mount or your rubber type stamps, you take this black thing out and you just use the plastic grid mat that's in here. This grid mat is stuck on here. It's not coming out. So the Stamparatus is 7 by 7. So it's a square. So it gives you a perfect square. And it has the ruler on both sides here, and also the grid in between. So it really helps you be able to position your paper and your stamps and all of that. So a few things about the Stamparatus is how I got my hands on this, right? So this is not in any current catalog. What Stampin' Up! Did is they offered people to pre-order this Stamparatus before it comes out, and they did this for not only demonstrators but also customers. The first window was last fall, and I do believe it was in, I want to say October or November. I set every alarm clock in my house to go off at the time when that window opened, because I had a feeling that this was going to sell out super quick, and it did. I think that first window to reserve the Stamparatus closed in 30 minutes, which is just crazy. A lot of people were very upset that they did not get a chance to reserve a Stamparatus. So Stampin' Up! Opened a second window that was in the month of December and allowed, again, demonstrators and customers to go ahead and pre-order the Stamparatus. Now, because I got in the first window, I just got my Stamparatus a few weeks ago. For those of you who ordered yours in the second window, I think yours is shipping, oh gosh, next month or maybe even in May. I can't remember. But for those of you who missed out on all of that and you're like, okay, why are you telling me this? I did not get to reserve one. This is going to be in the new annual catalog that comes out in June. So you will be able to order this Stamparatus in the new annual catalog. I do think it's going to be one of those items that quickly goes on the wait list, because I think a lot of folks are going to want to get their hands on it. The price point on this is $49. That's US. So if you're in another country, I'm not sure what that equates to, but it's $49 US, and this is what you get. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is magnets are key to holding down your paper. And the magnets for the Stamparatus are in the back, and they're held in this little, these little slots here. And I love that the magnets that come with the Stamparatus are this long rectangle, as opposed to what came with the Misti are the circle magnets. So this is the circle magnet that came with my Misti. I just put a piece of washi on it because it's easy to pull up. I'll probably do the same on these, because it's hard to kind of get your fingers underneath these magnets and pull them up. They're very, very strong. And as you saw these two magnets click together, you want to be very, very careful that you don't allow your magnets to snap like that, and I keep doing it, because it could break your magnet. They are so strong that when they snap together like that, they could break. I've seen several people break those circle ones I just showed you in their Misti. So really make sure that you're being very careful with your magnet. I'm going to leave this out for the sake of it being easier to grab. It does have these little cushion footies here, these little rubber footies, so it keeps it from sliding, and it's very sturdy. I'm very surprised and pleased with the quality of this stamping tool and how sturdy it is. I don't know if you can see this, but each door has a built-in grid. Now it's not the painted on grid that my Misti has. It's actually etched into the plastic, and I like that better because I always worry with cleaning my Misti that I might rub the paint off or use a cleanser that might damage it. There is the Misti cleaner that you're supposed to get to use to clean your Misti. I mean, I clean it with Stampin' Mist, so don't tell anybody, but I have yet to ruin my Misti. But I do like that this grid is built in to the door as opposed to painted on. I think that's going to be great for wear and tear. So let me bring out the Misti, and we'll just start kind of doing some comparisons here, and then we can get into some stamping. So this is my Misti. Like I said, I've had it for several years, so I've done a lot with it and done some upgrades, if you will. Now, I do put a piece of washi on my door of my Misti. You can see here. This is just to help me lift it. The Misti door does not come off like the Stamparatus, right? So I'm going to show you why this is so cool to have a door that actually comes off in a few minutes. But as you know, the Misti, this is a rectangle as compared to the square, and the Misti is taller. It is 8 inches. Actually, I think it's a little more than 8 inches because this right here is 8, and you've got a little bit here. So it's pretty tall, and width-wise, the Stamparatus is actually, the stamping space on it is as wide as the Misti. Now they're stuck together. Okay. The other thing that's a little different about the Misti is no matter how you're stamping, if you've removed your insert that is for your photopolymer and you're working on this base, like this would be if you took out this black mat, no matter, you have to kind of take the black mat out of the Stamparatus to see the ruler, right? Where the Misti, no matter what you're no matter what you're stamping with, photopolymer or the cling mount, you can always see the ruler on the outside. So to me, that's I don't want to say it's a drawback of the Stamparatus, but it's one thing that I wish that they may have considered, because as you can see, when I put in the insert for when I'm using photopolymer stamp sets, I don't have any sort of ruler on the outside. I can use the grid that's on the door, but when you're doing the type of stamping where you have a photopolymer stamp and you're stamping it up and you're moving your paper, I like to use the ruler on the side a lot of times. So I'm going to have to get used to using the grid on the door more. So also in my Misti, which you might notice, which is a little bit different, this is just a grid transparency that I bought from Simon Says Stamp. It just helps me line up sentiments and stamps when I have a piece of paper down. Let me show you. So here's this. I want to put a sentiment so I can use this to line up the sentiment on my paper. This is pretty handy. You can probably find them online and print it yourself, but they're pretty cheap. I also keep a piece of acetate. A lot of times I will lay the acetate over my project, stamp it first, see how I like it's going to look, make sure it lines up where I want it to, remove the acetate, and then stamp onto my piece of paper. That's not necessary, but it's just something I do sometimes. Now for my Misti, I invested in this mouse pad. This is the same kind of insert that the Stamparatus has, this piece of foam that helps cushion your photopolymer stamps when you use those. And then, but it also has this cleanable surface here. So usually you know, I was using the paper that came for the Misti, and I laminated this piece. This is actually a piece of the paper pad that I laminated, and I was using that before I got this mouse pad, so I didn't have to keep throwing away and going through that paper. I wanted to have something that I could stamp on and wipe off, so that's what I did for my Misti. Okay, now let's get into, you know, the Misti is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, you have the door, you put your stamps down, you pick them up with your door, and you stamp. So let me just kind of show you the Misti first. And this is for those of you who have never seen the Misti, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and you're like, what the heck's the Misti? This is kind of what, you know, this is what the Misti's all about. So I'm going to line my paper up just in the corner, and this is just so I know where it is. And then I'm going to break out some photopolymer stamps. I'm just going to use the Dragonfly Dreams because it's a two-step stamping, and I wanted to kind of show you that whole two-step thing. So first I'm going to take my my butterfly outline. I'm going to lay this down, and then I'm going to use my Misti magnets that I have. So these are the ones that come with it. You get these circular ones. I also invested in a very jumbo industrial strength and size of one of those squares that, like, it comes in the Stamparatus. This is actually even more hefty than the ones that come in the Stamparatus, and it really holds the paper down, but that's not necessary either, but I really like to make sure I hold my paper down. So when you're stamping with the stamping tool, you just close the door and you pick up the stamp, and that's the beauty of it. Now sometimes with these photopolymers, they can be sticky, and it does shift your paper. That's why it's always good to know where your paper is lined up so that you can line it up there every single time and get perfect stamping. So let's stamp this with, let's do Fresh Fig. And I'm just going to ink it up on the door here. And I'm going to stamp it down. Now the thing about a stamping tool, which is really, really cool, is if you don't get a good impression the first time, see how I have some spots that did not get a good impression? You just make sure you line your paper up where it was before, re-ink your stamp, and stamp it again. Now I know I'm showing you this on the Misti, but I have a whole reason why I'm doing this, and I'll show you. Okay, so I've stamped that down. I've got a beautiful impression. I'm going to come in, clean my stamp off, put it away, and now I'm going to go to step 2, and this is why stamping positioners are so cool. You know, I could, if I was making multiple projects, I could keep, you know, inking that stamp up, putting a new piece of cardstock in, stamping, taking it out, and continuing to go. But for this, I'm just kind of showing you how it works. So now I'm going to go to the second part of our stamping here, and I'm kind of at a weird angle, so hopefully I'm lining this up. Okay. I think I've got it lined up okay. I'm going to pick that stamp up with the door here. Again, make sure my paper's lined up, and we're just going to, let's do lemon lime twist. Again, I'm going to ink it up. And you see, you know, I'm having to remove the stamp and do the second stamping just like that. Now, I could have positioned this second stamp somewhere down here, move the paper each time, but you see how, you know, if you're just doing one image, you have to remove the stamp from the door every time and kind of reposition it. Side note, I really do not like that color combination, so if you're going to create the Dragonfly after watching this, I'm not sure I really like the fig with the lemon lime twist, but, you know, oh well. Okay, so that's kind of how the Misti works. Let me show you the cool thing about the Stamparatus, which is what really blew me away and made me go, okay, I've got to have that tool even though I have the Misti. So let me bring in the Stamparatus here. Now, like I mentioned, the Stamparatus has 2 doors, so it can do all kinds of stamping at one time. So we're going to use this paper. I'm going to put it back into my corner so I know every single time. I'm going to put it there. And again, I'm going to get my Dragonfly stamp, set that here, and we're going to put our magnet. This time I'm going to use the one that came with the Stampin' Up. pick it up with our door, just like we did with the Misti. I did not clean that very well, just ignore that. We're going to ink it up, stamp it, and again, with just like the Misti, if you do not get a clean stamp like I did here, ink it up again and stamp it down. Now, one thing I have noticed with the Stamparatus is that the closer you get to where the door fits in, it doesn't seem to want to stamp. So you really have to push it down over near the door here, and I'll show you that when we go into stamping with a full-size background. You can see I'm still not getting the tip of that, so I'm going to make sure I'm inking it up, and I'm going to come in and I'm really going to press it down. And there we go, we stamped it. So you really have to give it some muscle, especially if you're coming close to this corner. I mean, you really have to give it some muscle. Now, remember with the Misti, I removed this stamp and put the second stamp on. What's cool about the Stamparatus is I can come in here, put my second layer on, and I can do one of two things. I can either bring in the second door. Let me close this stamp pad. I can either come in here like this, put in my second door, then close that, and you can see, let me move that a little bit, and then pick up the stamp with the second door. So you see, I could be stamping the first layer, stamping the second. So the Stamparatus really allows you to do rapid reproduction of stamping. This is what I said, I've got to have it. I mean, this is awesome because you can, you know, really stamp multiple cards very quickly using this tool. So just like we did on the other side, I'm going to come in with the second color. This time I'm going to use Berry Burst because I really did not, no, this is not Berry Burst. This is Powder Pink because I don't know. I don't really like that line with it. So I've inked it up. I'm going to stamp that down. And I did not get it inked very well. Could be my ink pad is dry. See, and that's the great thing about these stamping tools is you can just keep on stamping until you get as much ink as you want. And see, there you go. So now I've got it stamped. And what I could do is, let's say I'm like, okay, stamping a new card. Coming in here, getting my fresh fig, put my magnet down, ink it up. Really press down on this side because we know that's going to give us some trouble. Come back, ink the top, stamp it down. You see how quick that can go? Now, the other cool thing is, let's say, and don't judge my stamping. I'm doing this very quickly and not really taking the time to ink stuff up. But let's say, just for fun, that we also wanted to stamp this third stamp, which is kind of the body of the dragonfly. Now, I know he's already colored in, but let's just pretend like we wanted to add some other colors to him. So I'm going to line him up. And you're thinking, well, I mean, I've already used this side of the door, this side of the door. Now what can you do? Well, you can pick your door up. I'm actually going to, I think, use this one. Pick your door up. Remember I said go perpendicular. Flip it around. Put it back in. And now look, you have another space to stamp that third stamp. And you can do a fourth. I mean, you can go up to 4 layers on this using both doors. And you can easily just do some very fast multiple stamping. So for this little guy, I don't know, let's throw in some pool party. Stamp him down. And look at that. Voila. So you see you could quickly go back. Step 1. Put your dragonfly in. Step it down. Stamp it. Stamp your second one. Pick your door up. Flip it around. And stamp it down. So you can see how quick you can make multiples of a stamped image. I mean, this tool is really, really awesome. I really love it a lot. So like I said, it gives you 4 options, because if we had another stamp, we could pick this door up, turn it around, and use that side too. So it really gives you a lot of room for the multiple stamping, or to really just stamp multiple cards very quickly. I mean, if you were stamping a scene, you could stamp your first image and then have the second image here and flip it. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. So this was the biggest key for me and why I wanted to buy this the Stamparatus, and why for me this is going to be my go-to stamping tool. It's going to replace the Misti for me. I love my Misti, but this tool is so easy to use. It gives me so many multiple stamping options like that. And the doors are they're really sturdy. They're very easy once you learn how it goes perpendicular. Then you could just pull them out, put them in. Now, another cool thing that I wanted to show you, which makes this unique, and there's another reason that I really wanted this stamping tool. So let me clean this up. I'm going to use another stamp from this same set. Just give me a second here. I'm trying to be a very good stamper and show you to always clean your stamps before you put them up, no matter what you're doing, so that when you go to use them the next time, you have a clean stamp. So I'm going to show you another really cool thing that you can do, and I'm just going to use this scratch piece of paper. Okay, so, oh, I still need that. All right, so we're going to start up here in the corner, and I'm going to just position this, how do I want to do this? I'm going to position it, actually we're going to start down here, and I'm going to position it right here. Oh, sorry, I'm off camera, sorry guys. So I'm going to put my paper here at the very bottom. I'm going to use my magnet over here on the side to hold the paper down, and I'm going to take my door, and instead of coming down with it the traditional way, I'm going to pick it up, take it out, and I'm actually going to start with it like this, so it's towards the top, and I'm going to show you why I'm doing that and why this is another really cool thing about this tool. So I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to start with Blushing Bride. I'm going to ink up the stamp, stamp it down, pick it up, and I'm going to clean it because I'm going to a different color. Okay, so that's Blushing Bride. You can't really see it that well. Now we're going to go to, now what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of re-stamping it, we're going to pick the door up and we're going to move it up 1 slot. And I'm going to ink it up with the Calypso Coral. Stamp it down, and check that out. You can go up the piece of paper by not moving the paper at all, but by moving this door. So I could clean this off. My next color, I'm trying to go in rainbow order here if you haven't figured that out. So we'll do, let's do So Saffron. So we're going to pick the door up, move it up a notch, and ink it up with the So Saffron and stamp it down. And you see you get this really cool effect that you can go in a straight line with the same stamp up and down. And you can keep moving it up all the way till you get to the very top. So that's another reason why I really had to have this stamping tool. It's going to make, it just does all kinds of really great things. So, let's see. Hey, Paula, thanks for joining. I see you're on. Hey. So that's what really makes, you know, this tool really cool and what makes it different than the Misti. So another tip that I have for you guys is when you're using a big background stamp, like I told you, coming up close to these, it kind of is hard to get that really crisp edge. So what I do is I have my background stamp here. This is the tree rings. I'm going to bring it in, and I took the black mat out because this is a rubber cling mount. It already has the padding in it, so you don't need that black mat. And I'm going to just position my stamp right here in this corner, so not against the hinge here. I'm going to bring it out 1 inch, and I'm going to line it up, close my door and pick it up. And then I'm going to bring in my paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up my stamp. So I've got some early espresso, and then this is a piece of crumb cake. Let me move this out of the way. Bring this over a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to just ink up the stamp. Now you can do this several ways. This for me is what I found to be one of the best ways to do these big background stamps. Now, what you could do is apply a little bit of snail to the back of this cardstock, set it into your Stamparatus, and that should hold it into place. But this is the method that I find works the best for me. So I took that other door off so it didn't get in our way. And so now what I'm going to do is, instead of stamping, I'm going to place the cardstock onto my background stamp. Give it a little rub here. And then I'm going to close the bottom of the Stamparatus. And I'm going to hold that tight, flip it over, and then really give this a good rub. Now, background stamps are challenging to get a really good stamp anyway, so you really want to make sure that you are pushing down in all four corners, across the top, the sides, and in the middle. You can also take your sleeve and use it to kind of rub like this, rub across, so you're getting even pressure across. I've also seen people bring a brayer and they just brayer along here so you get even pressure. But this for me seems to work. I give it several good rubs and then I cross my fingers and you get perfect stamp background. So that's kind of my trick for doing background stamps in a stamping positioner. I've done that a lot and it works really well. So I think that's all the tricks and tips I have. This is a really cool tool, and like I said before, it does come out in the annual catalog, which is going to be in June. It's probably going to be a very fast seller, so if it's something that you want to add to your stamping arsenal, I would say get on there as soon as the annual catalog releases and grab one. If you don't want to wait till June, you can always join as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and we get access to order from the annual catalog a month in advance. So it's really awesome to get new product before anyone else can. So, all right, if you guys think of any questions or if you have any questions about the Stamparatus, you can reach out to me on my website at www.thestampcycle.com. Thank you guys for joining me today, and hopefully I helped you introduce you to the Stamparatus and will help you decide if this is the right tool for you. All right, thank you everyone.